another edition of the AfterBuzz. Hope everybody's having themselves a fantastic Wednesday. If you are checking us out on a podcast, I hope whatever day it is going fantastic for you. Got a few different topics that we'll be going over today. I want to touch on the Judge Jeanine topic, something that was we put up on YouTube. And can I personally say, screw her? Like, I really don't like that chick at this point. And we're going to get to, some work stories, and we'll talk about Shim more a little bit, former lead singer of Sick Puppies, and then also how people think that everybody right now is just, like, the kids doing stupid things is something new, like stunts and stupid activities is something new, when it's really not. But anyway, welcome to the AfterBuzz. My name's Brandon, here every Wednesday, 10:30 Mountain Time. If you want to check us out live, like if you're checking us out right now on the podcast, you can always get involved in the conversation on YouTube. Just go to the KLAQ YouTube channel, and if you got an account, you can log right in, and you're able to get involved in the YouTube chat. You can speak directly to me, ask questions, make comments, whatever it may be. You can do it right there. Just keep it clean and don't be a dick, or I will boot you. That easy. So anyway, first and foremost, the first thing I really want to talk about on today's podcast is our interview that we had with Judge Jeanine earlier this week. And something really bothers me with her, and it really bothers me that people tend to think that she comes off as an intelligent person, and I have yet to see her really do anything that's all that intelligent. I kind of like, you'll notice if you listen to the show live and you listen to the interviews, I tend to not get involved during the interviews because it can get to the point where you have multiple people talking over each other, and it gets to be too much, and it can be confusing for not only you as the listener, but it can get confusing for the person who's being interviewed. So I tend to stay back a little bit unless it's maybe in studio or it's somebody who I would have a specific question for. Or something like maybe it's a TV show that I follow or that they're on, or maybe it's a band that they're in that I'm a big fan of. Then maybe I might chime in with one or two questions, but normally I stay hands off. And Buzz got a little bit heated. Now at the beginning of the interview, he gave her ample time to answer the questions. Now the problem that I've noticed with her is she continues to regurgitate the exact same things, and all she says is, "Well, go read my book." Well, but if you have an actual fact or you know where it comes from, then maybe every now and then you might need to state it. But she even started to repeat herself in just the 8 minutes that we interviewed her. And it's the same things on repeat. And the two main things that she repeats are the economy has never been better. The country has never been better. And then the extra thing that she always throws in there is if you start to ask another question or if you start to interrupt her, she immediately jumps to well, why are you going to let me on your airwaves just to interrupt me? All right, let's be completely honest. Both sides do this. 100%. If you go on MSNBC, they're going to pattern their questions the way that they think it's going to make you look stupid and the way that they want the conversation to go. And if they don't like your answer, they're going to talk over you. Fox News does the exact same thing. So this claim that she was trying to make at the beginning, that the left is trying to shut down the right and the left invites you on their shows, it's bullshit. Well, it's not bullshit in the sense that it's being done. It is done. Both sides do it. So to make that claim like you're this victim here, shut up, grow up, move on. But what bothers me is when she brings that onto our show, and Buzz has given her ample time to answer questions. But it was when he strayed from what she was trying to answer. And the biggest thing that she does is you ask her a question. Watch interviews of her. Just go on YouTube and type interviews of Judge Jeanine with other shows. It's the same thing she did on The View. She keeps regurgitating the same facts. It's not even facts. She's just regurgitating the same point is the economy's never been better. The country has never been better. That's it. She just kind of says that differently over and over and over again on repeat. And then when you interrupt her to try to get a different answer out of her is when she crawls into that, "Oh, you guys are not letting me finish answering the question." And then what really pissed me off is when I'm trying to speak, she immediately interrupts me. So Judge Jeanine, this is for you. Go fuck yourself. You are a detriment to this nation, and you are not a good person as far as advancing our society. You are banking on the right wing, just like the left side does, and you're playing the victim card just like the left side does. Grow up. Now, let me get to my actual points here. Because one of the things that is being said right now by Trump supporters is that, and let me be completely honest here, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican. I am neither. I try to look at things subjectively. I don't try to be right all the time, but I do want to find the right answer. That's why if I don't know something, I will say I don't know it. I want to know what the answer is. Now, the problem when it comes to numbers and statistics, people think that, oh, well, it's cut and dry. This number means this. It's not always the case. And the one thing that's happening right now is a lot of people are claiming that the economy has never been better, and that's 100% to do with Donald Trump. Now, if you research this really at all, and there's multiple sources on this, the president does affect the economy to a point, but the president is given too much credit, good or bad, in regards to the economy. If the economy is bad, maybe a little bit, but not a lot. If the economy is good, same thing, maybe a little bit, not a lot. Now, the biggest difference that we're in right now is the fact that Donald Trump hasn't even been in office for 2 full years. I don't even think it's been 18 months yet. And some research has been done. And again, this is not an exact science. I'm willing to admit it's not an exact science. But the general consensus is it takes about 18 months from when a president takes over for their policies to really take effect. And this happens with anything. You can look at this. Case in point, look at what happened when like Jimmy Johnson left the Cowboys. Okay, winning was still done after Jimmy Johnson left, but they were playing with his players. So there's always some carryover for whatever the new regime is, and it takes about 18 months. Again, that can fluctuate a little bit, but it's about 18 months until you really start seeing certain effects, and those effects generally are fairly minimal. The claim that Judge Jeanine kept bringing up was unemployment has never been lower. If you look at the unemployment rate in the United States, look at when it was at its highest recently. It was right around, I believe, 2009. It's been on a steady decline since then. So I might agree with this point if during Obama it had flatlined or was even going up, and then it recently dropped down. But we're still even in that 18-month window. So to make this claim that since unemployment is at its lowest ever, and it just so happens to be Trump sitting in that seat, means he's the reason for it, it's not the truth. It's not. Because you can actually see that we've been on a steady decline. He happened to be coming into an economy that was already improving. Now, if 2 years down the line, towards the end of his term, the economy is just even better than it is now, and unemployment is almost at zero, and the business is booming and everything else, then yeah, you have to give the guy credit. But that's where both sides completely miss on all of these points, is that they want to, like, if things were bad right now, oh, you better believe the Democrats would be jumping down Trump's throat about the economy sucking. But that wouldn't be the truth, because it would still kind of be from that Obama term that it's still the bleed over. But the Democrats would, of course, have to point the finger at Trump. And this is where looking at statistics and numbers is not a black and white issue. It's completely gray, and it completely depends on how you want to perceive it. And it's all depending on what you want to look at. And so, you can claim, oh, well, just because this person is sitting in this office and we're at the best we've ever been, it's because of this person. That's not always the case, and you can't perceive it that way. Well, I take it back. You can perceive it that way, but you will most likely be wrong. I'm not going to say you're always going to be wrong, but you're most likely going to be wrong. And this is where it pisses me off, where people like Judge Jeanine want to come on and keep regurgitating the same thing over and over again. She's full of shit, is what she is. Judge Jeanine is full of shit. She needs to grow up, and we can all move on from that. Good. Great. Grand. Wonderful. All right. Next topic here that I kind of wanted to go down was talking about where we were talking about, I think it was work stories earlier this week. We were talking about things that you've done that probably should have gotten you fired, but didn't, because of the lady who worked at the DMV who they caught her sleeping over like 2,000 hours or something like that. And on top of it, she was bad at her job. And the point that I'm ultimately going to get to is I think we need mass firings across the United States, because I don't think there's a fear of losing your job right now when it comes to poor performance, because I think there's so many loopholes that need to be done by employers to get rid of crappy employees. When it comes to people needing work or needing jobs or all these other things, people constantly want to complain about that, but it's also to the point now to where we can't kind of flush out the bad stuff and bring in quality employees. Because there are so many loopholes that employers need to actually to go through. And I've, in every job that I've had, dating all the way back to when I started when I was 16 years old, rolling pretzels in the Clackamas Town Center Mall at the Neon Pretzel, there's always been people who have had poor work ethic and have just been bad employees. I've been that guy, depending on the job. I was that guy. If I wasn't interested, chances are I was a bad employee. Like I didn't care, and I kind of would just coast by. But I would always do the minimum to, to at least get the job done. Like that was something that you could always count on me, was the job would get done. But I wasn't going to go above and beyond for anything. Now, when it comes to, radio or anything else that I'm working in, goddamn right I'm going to go above and beyond for that, because to me it doesn't feel like work most of the time, because I enjoy doing it. It's fun. Unfortunately, there aren't a lot of people out there. But it also brings me to the point of, we have a lot of people who think that, oh, well, I'm doing my job for X amount of time, I deserve a raise or a promotion. Well, no, that's not how it works, because you don't have 5 bosses for 5 people. You have maybe 1 boss for 5 people, 1 boss for 10 people, or however that works. So those 5 employees who are working, only one will be able to get a promotion if that job becomes open. That's just how it works. The numbers don't work out that way. So what you need to do is you need to what you need to think is you need to be able to go above and beyond, and you need to do extra things, and you need to prove you're a better employee than the other employees. And the thing that I'm kind of tired of seeing, and it goes when you're shopping somewhere or doing other things, you just have these horrible employees who just kind of coast by, and they do the bare minimum. I'm telling you right now, if you're a server and you go above and beyond for me, there was, I can't remember where we were at, but we were getting dinner recently. I ordered a beer. It was a smaller beer. They made a mistake. They brought me a larger beer. Guess what? The difference, which was I think $2 for that beer, half of that I gave an extra $1 in the tip to the server. Who knows? Maybe she did it on purpose. Maybe she knows that most people do that. But if you make a mistake and you make it right, or if you go above and beyond, then I think you should be rewarded for it. But I also think on the flip side, if you're a bad employee, you should suffer the consequences of being a bad employee. And I think that at this point, there are a lot of people out there who don't have the fear of getting fired. They don't know what it's like to be fired. They don't know what it's like to be out of work and suddenly be like, hey, maybe next time I should actually put forth some effort. Maybe I should do a little bit more. Which brings me to my next point here, which is some funny work stories of crappy things that have happened at places that I've worked. And if you don't know this about me, they keep saying that I was a lumberjack on the air. It wasn't a lumberjack. I worked in lumber yards when I was in Portland. Really quick synopsis: when I graduated high school, didn't have a single clue what I wanted to do, enrolled in a community college, lasted a couple of terms, ended up going and working for a lumber yard. Did that for a couple of years, realized, hey, this sucks. It's great for these other guys, but it's not what I want to do with my life. So that's when I enrolled back in school and got my degree in radio broadcasting. And one of the stories was one of the lumber companies I worked at back in the yard. It wasn't completely flat ground. Like you had, it was kind of up and down in certain places. And there was this one area that was the 2x4x12s, standard and better. Lumber out there, and it was just at this kind of awkward angle where the right side was slightly up a little bit, and there's always just this one hole in the asphalt out there, and it would be problems for the forklifts because it would make them bounce, and if you had if you were building a load, and it could topple the things over. So they would constantly come in, and they're always repatching it, and they're always repatching it. And this one time I worked there, I worked the night shift, and our whole job was I would go deliver lumber kind of during the regular day, and then I would help another guy build deck loads and foundations and stuff like that, and package all that stuff up during the night shift, so it was ready to go the next morning. First thing, all they had to do was come in. We put them up on the trucks, so all the guys had to do was show up, get in their truck, and they were off to the job site. And I remember this one night, they had just patched this thing up, not maybe 3 to 4 hours earlier. And everybody was excited about it, and everybody was happy because you didn't have to worry about the forklifts, because it was really well done. It was nice and smooth. And my dumbass is going through with the forklift. I go to get some 2x4x12s, and I stick the fork down, but I had it down too far. So rather than, if this is the where you need to go under right here, I accidentally had the forks pitched down a little bit. And oh man, that thing went right into that new patch job on that asphalt, and it dug it right up. So of course, me being me, I'm like, maybe I can hide this or whatever. So what I ended up doing is I had to take this patch of asphalt and basically scrape it off of the fork, and then I used the fork just going up and down to kind of pat it down like this. It didn't really work, and then ultimately everybody gave me a ton of shit because I was the idiot that screwed up the patch job that they had just done. Another one is I was dropping off some lumber, and I have pictures of this one. And one of these days I'll get them scanned in, and I'll put them up here on the AfterBuzz for you guys. But there was a house that was being built, and it was the driveway was one of those super long driveways. It's way down this hill, and the driveway was all gravel. And there was no place to really turn around yet because there was so much stuff in the driveway, and I needed to dump the load. So I'm backing down this driveway, I'm making it all the way, and one of the workers is leaving the job site, and he wouldn't move his truck. I'm trying to get him to move to the side, but he wouldn't move, so I had to go around him. And as I'm going around the guy, there's a ditch to the right. And again, it's gravel. This is not a finished driveway. Well, apparently as I'm going around, I got a little bit too close to the edge, and the gravel gave way, and the whole truck just sinks down into this ditch to the point where the complete chassis of the truck is resting on an angle in this ditch. I mean, the ditch was probably 2 feet deep or something. I mean, it's pitched down there. When I show you guys the pictures, the truck is sitting at just about a 45-degree angle on its side, and eventually, I had to sit and wait for 2 hours for one of my buddies in another truck to come pull me out because I was stuck. I couldn't get out. But I have pictures of that, and I got to come share them with everybody. There's pictures of after it happened with the truck, and then there's also a picture after we pulled the truck out of what it looked like and just kind of the bigger hole that it dug over there on the side. And then another quick story here, a different lumber company I was working at. The first one I worked at, it was old school. We didn't punch anything in as far as receipts went. You hand wrote everything. You hand wrote for 2x8 standard and better. You put the price per stick, and then you multiplied it, and then you put the final price on the right. Everything, it was handwritten receipts. Holy crap, that took forever. And a lot of people chewed on this at this job. And what would happen is you were always told if you chewed, you can do it. Just make sure you're not spitting in front of customers or anything. Just don't be gross, even though most people think it's gross just seeing it. And you could always tell when somebody had been with a customer for a while because their head would slowly start to tip up because the spit was building in their mouth. So they start talking like this, and then all of a sudden they're starting to talk like this a little bit, and you can still understand them, but they're trying to keep the spit in their mouth. And I had a buddy of mine. I'm standing behind him at the counter, and he's helping out somebody, and they bought some plywood or something, and he's writing it down. And he goes, he's going to ask them, do you want us to load it into your truck for you? He gets out, do you? Because as he says it, he forgets he's looking down, and this whole mouthful of spit just comes falling out of his mouth and just goes blip, and it ends up right on the middle of the receipt. He'd already spent probably a good 2 to 3 minutes writing this thing out. He looks down with this absolute face of horror because the customer's looking at him, and she looks like she's just seen a ghost because it's like, this is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. And so he takes his forearm and he just goes whoop, and he wipes off the receipt. He realizes it's completely soaked in chew spit, and he grabs another ticket and acts like nothing happened after that and just keeps riding. And at this point, everything's falling out of his mouth, so he's able to say, do you want us to load it into your truck for you without the concerns of chew spit falling anywhere? So those are just a few of the stories. I'm willing to admit that I haven't always been the best employee, and it always depended on the job. If I wasn't interested in the job, I was that jerk off that the job would get done, but it would be guaranteed that you weren't always going to get my full undivided attention when it came to things. But I'm also a firm believer that, like, if that's my livelihood, if that's kind of like where I was at in life and that's what I needed to do, then you're goddamn right I'm going to put forth the best ever, and I'm going to do everything that I can. And I still am a firm believer, like everybody says we need a plague, almost kind of Thanos the earth a little bit because we need to thin the herd. I'm a firm believer that we need some mass firings here in the United States. If you're doing things and it's not meeting a minimum standard, the threat of losing your job should be there, and I don't think it is right now. I think that there's a lot of people who, if you're able to just kind of coast through and you don't need to do things to like a minimum standard, it's kind of like, oh, well, not the end of the world. And then you move on, and it's kind of like, okay, well, what's to prevent this person from doing that again? Because I see a lot of people where it's just like, don't worry about it, not that big a deal. There's no concern on my end because nothing is going to happen because of it. But then again, these are also some of the people who expect promotions and more money simply because they've kept the job for 2 years, and that's not how it should work at all. Anyway, next topic. We're going to get to Shim Moore, who is one of the greatest people I've met. He's the former lead singer of Sick Puppies. He was in town last Friday. I kind of have my top tier of interviews or interviewees, and he easily vaulted to probably number one on that list. And up on that top, Bobby Lee. If you guys remember when Bobby Lee was on the show, he came in while Buzz was on vacation. Bobby Lee was a super cool dude. Tommy Lee, also another one. I've never met him in real life, but I have interviewed him a couple of times on the phone, and that dude has always been super cool. So Shim Lee was just a really nice guy. We went and saw his performance that he did here in town. He's just a super cool dude. And I kind of told him a couple of stories. Like something that you guys might not know is like my parents went through a divorce about 7-8 years ago or so. And if you've ever heard the song White Balloons, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's a Sick Puppies song. I recommend going on YouTube and looking up the acoustic version of it where they kind of give a story behind the song. And it was a song that I'd once played for my sister, and it was, for my sister and for the families we're going through this really difficult time. It was a song that kind of gave us strength. And it was a song that you could always kind of lean on. Like, when you're going through good times, bad times, whatever it may be, there's always a song that you can kind of go to. And I mentioned that story to him, and he was super cool. I filmed him on my phone. He did a real quick 20-second performance of White Balloons that I was able to send to my sister, which was dope. And we got to hang out with the guy, have some lunch. Just all around super cool guy. His album is going to be called Shim, which, of course, that's his name. And it's going to be out late September. We didn't have an official release date yet, but he did say it will probably be out, coming out in late September. And there's one song on that album that's super, super dark. He said that it's going to be the last track of the album, and he let a few different people listen to it throughout the day when he was in town on Friday. And I'm really, really looking forward to his album coming out because he played more than a few tracks for us. And it's going to be a really good album. And that last song, the biggest thing that he was telling us about it is, I think the story he told us was he was at an Imagine Dragons concert, and he loves Imagine Dragons. But every third song, it was about hope, and this is about getting through the tough stuff, and this is about, coming out the other side. And the way Shim looked at it is, well, what about when you're going through that shit? What about when you're in that moment? Like, it's all well and good to move past and have that kind of victory song of, yeah, I did it, I made it. But what about when you're going through it? And that's what this song is. It's what this final song on his album is going to be. And I can't wait to see people's reactions to that song when this album is released. Again, it's going to be end of September for his album. When there's an official release date, we can talk about that too. Final topic that I'm going to get to here happens to do with, I think it's the hot water challenge is the latest thing that's happening now. So if you guys want, by all means, here in the YouTube chat, questions, comments, get them in now so we can knock those things out ready to go when we're towards the end here. These challenges aren't necessarily anything new, and they always seem dumb because, quite frankly, they're dumb. Look at Jackass. This started when I was their age, 18, 19, 20 years old. This is stupid stuff, but it's hilarious. Biggest problem, and Lisa said this on the air today, biggest problem with the hot water challenge is that you're not hurting yourself, or you're not doing something to yourself. You're legitimately burning somebody you know. And something I know that popped up, with probably maybe past year, 2 years maybe, was guys running over their friends with golf carts out on the golf course. What do you think is going to happen if you're doing that? And then I remember, you would always see, oh, we laughed at it, it's funny, look, he's okay. But you never saw the bad ones. And then all of a sudden, this rash of, bad videos of guys running over their friends, like their legs are twisted the wrong way and it's snapped in half and all this other stuff. So these things aren't new. And of course, we're going to think it's stupid because we've all grown up. And the thing that I think gets lost, and obviously the internet has changed how things work, is everybody still goes through the same things in life. Like when you're 16, 17, 18, all the way up until 22, you do a lot of stupid things that you wouldn't do when you're 30, 35, 40, unless you're the guys from Jackass who apparently still continue to do it, like Johnny Knoxville, who had his eyeball literally pop out of his head filming that movie about Action Park. But these are not anything new, and there was stupid stuff that my friends and I did. Here's a perfect example for you. If you guys are ever wondering about my sheer stupidity, and it's funny, I get a lot of, when I get hate emails and stuff, it's people who are like, oh, you think you're so smart, you think you know this. No, I'm an idiot. I get a different perspective on things sometimes, but trust me, I have had more than my fair share of stupid moments. Here's your perfect example. We were out hunting, we were out camping. This was, God, I might have been 21 at this time. So this was almost 20 years ago. I really hate saying that. But yeah, so this is how long ago it was. And one of my buddies had brought his BB gun. And it wasn't like a CO2 gun. It was a hand-pumped BB gun. Not a full, rifle BB gun, not you'd see in A Christmas Story. It was kind of a pistol, but it looked like a pirate's gun is really what it looked like, with a longer barrel on it. And we're out just goofing around, shooting, setting up cans and shooting cans out in the woods and stuff like that. And I'm not gonna lie, there was some beer in me when I made this decision. Okay, so let's make that clear. Although I probably would have done this sober, quite frankly, it's not an excuse because I'm really that stupid. So anyway, I'm sitting there, I'm rocking Carhartt pants because this is when I worked at the lumber yard, and so you always needed to have good thick clothing. And if you don't know what Carhartt pants are, those things are tough as fuck. I also had Carhartt hoodie on. If you don't know what a Carhartt hoodie is, go watch Luke Cage. Luke Cage rocks the Carhartt hoodie. So what I'm thinking is, I've got these thick ass pants. I've got a thick hoodie with, I think, another, a flannel and another layer on underneath that, because we were camping. It was cold and rainy outside. And so I decided to tell my friends, let's play a game called Hunter. What is Hunter, you ask? Hunter is basically, so I took the hood, you take the hood, then you kind of, you put it up a little bit. So you're running out into the woods, and I'm like, I'm just going to go run out there about shit, I don't even know how far. I don't even think I was out that far. I think in my brain I was out further than I thought I was. So anyway, so I go out there and I'm like, look, you see that tree there? And then the tree to the right of it that's about 10 paces away or something like that. I'm going to go run out there. And like the shooting galleries with the ducks that you have at the fairs where they kind of go back and forth like that? I go, I'm just going to go out there. I'm going to run to that tree. I'm going to run across to the other one, and you guys try and shoot me. Again, genius at work here. So I run out there, and I'm standing behind the tree, and I'm kind of doing the ducking back and forth like, ooh, when am I going to go? Little to my knowledge, my friend loaded up about 5 BBs into it. So, again, I'm thinking Carhartt pants, Carhartt sweatshirt, I'm safe. I make a run for it. All of a sudden you hear, rut, and you hear this slap sound, and I go, oh, oh fudge, I guess. And I come back. What had happened was one of the BBs went rogue, and it hit me just below my ear, right on my jawline, near my cheek, and the BB was still there. They pumped it up enough to where it came out fast enough that the BB was stuck in my face. That was the last time and the only time that we ever played Hunter. So the synopsis of this story is everybody's stupid. Everybody, I mean, granted, that story's significantly stupider, I think, than most people. But the hot water challenge, the Tide Pod challenge, when Gen Z in 10 years, when they get older, they're going to look at whatever the hell that next generation is. They're going to say the exact same thing. How can these kids be this stupid? What the hell are they doing? There's always the people who will take it to that extreme and do the ridiculously stupid things. It's nothing new in society, and I don't think it's ever going to go away. The only difference now is it's being recorded because everybody has a goddamn camera sitting in their pocket. On that note, really quick, no, I'm not taking over the show. We have people saying that they're looking forward to me taking over the morning show. No, before any rumors start, there are no plans for that. Buzz is not going anywhere. I'm perfectly content with my producer role, and I love doing the AfterBuzz for you guys because it gives me about a half an hour a week to just kind of chat it up. And if you guys want to put anything into the chat, question, comment, whatever it may be, Bilbo, you've asked a couple of questions here. I will write them down, and hopefully, we can get to that on next week's AfterBuzz. But if you guys have anything else that you want to put into the YouTube chat, go ahead and do it now. Coming up tonight, again, today is Wednesday, August 1st. So if you're listening to the podcast version of this, then you should already be able to go to the YouTube channel and check out the recording, because tonight, 5 p.m. Mountain Time, Legends of Concordia. We have, I think it's episode 4 coming up tonight. And if you followed the storyline so far, in the very first episode, we ran into this guy that he wanted us to run security for a party he was throwing. Well, that party, that's happening tonight at 5 p.m. The broadcast coming to you from Military Gamer Supply. You are more than welcome to show up at Military Gamer Supply while we're there, but please know that we are in a separate room with the doors closed because we're doing a live broadcast. So, it's not like the first couple of times where we did it where you can actually come sit and watch and everything else like that. But it will be right here on the KLAQ YouTube channel. Again, if you're watching or if you're listening to this on the podcast, if you want to get on this live, 10:30 Mountain Time, the KLAQ YouTube channel. It happens every Wednesday. On that note, I think I've rambled enough for this week's AfterBuzz, and hopefully I see you guys tonight in about 6 hours for Legends of Concordia. If you're not able to make that, it will be posted up after the fact, and at the very least, we'll see you guys tomorrow bright and early, 5 a.m. Mountain Time, 6 a.m. Central Time for the Buzz Adams Morning Show. Peace out, suckers. Suck it, Judge Jeanine.